Today we're gonna meet our dog Tuna, and we're gonna take her to the vet. Also, we're gonna take her to the park and then give her a special treat afterwards. So stay tuned and we'll talk about how we got her. Hi, this is Tuna. Today we get to meet my little Luna girl. We'll talk about how we got her, how we met her. I always talk about your life story, huh, Tuna? And then maybe we'll go do something. Hi friends, thank you for joining me. Today we're going to talk about my dog Tuna. Her actual name is Luna, but I call her Tuna, and we'll talk about that, the reason why. But we also will, I'll show you some videos of her at the park and going to the vet, because we had to go to the vet. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about how we got her. And so let's get started. So me and Mike always knew that we wanted to get a dog, and we knew we lived in an apartment at the time, so we wanted to get a smaller dog that could fit into our apartment lifestyle. We didn't want a big dog that wouldn't be able to, be outside all the time. So we were looking for a little dog, and so it took me a while to figure out what we wanted, but we wanted to adopt. We didn't want a puppy. So we first realized, because we were kind of broke, and so we were like, well, we have to make sure we have enough money saved so that we can get a dog. So we actually had a cookie jar, and whenever we had extra cash, we would put it in there for the adoption fee, because we knew we were going to probably go to the Humane Society, and their adoption fee was only $250. But if you're broke and you're paying bills, and he had that huge debt he had to pay off, $250 is hard enough that you can't just go pay for it. And at the time we weren't using credit cards because we were trying to pay all his bills off, so everything we did was in cash. So besides the $250 fee at the Humane Society, we knew we would have to get like a collar and water bowl and dog food bowl and dog food and toys and that sort of thing. So we wanted to have enough money to do that. You could probably hear her barking in the background because she's outside. Her most favorite thing to do these days is to run outside along the fence and bark at people walking by or driving by. And I'll show you that too, because that's her favorite thing. So one day I was just like, you know what, Mike, I'm just gonna go and look at the drawer and see if we have enough money, the cookie jar. And he's like, please don't look in there, please don't look in there. So that made that made me laugh, because that meant that he had been taking money from the cookie jar probably to get coffee or whatever. So I was sitting there counting, and I could tell he was uncomfortable, and we had exactly $250, so which he was surprised about. So we were able to, it was a Sunday, and we were like, oh, let's go look at the Humane Society, So we pull up, and it was packed, and we didn't know there was like an adoption event going on. So you had to like wait in line and pick a number to see one of the dogs. And so there wasn't very many choices, because a lot of them were outside, getting looked at by families and played with. And so there was one dog, I was like, oh, he's kind of cute. He's little and wiry. Well, he's the only one that I can see at the moment. So I'll put my number, I want to see him. So she's like, okay, well, just wait until I call you and we'll see him. Well, then in the meantime, Mike went and looked around more to see if any other dogs had showed up in the little kennels around. And there was one doggy, and she was turned back towards us, so her butt was towards the wall and you couldn't see her, but she was really cute looking. She like her colors and her spots. And so I was like, well, I want to see that. And I told the lady, I want to see this dog. And that lady said, well, somebody else is in front of you to see that dog, so that dog is going to go to her first. And I was like, okay. So before that lady got called back, I got called back to see that other dog that I wasn't really interested in. And the lady said, which one do you want to see first? And I was like, oh, because this was a different lady. She said, which one do you want to see first? And I was like, oh, I want to see the second dog first. And she's like, okay. And I had done that knowing that the lady in the front had told me I had to wait because somebody else wanted to see her first. And so I was like feeling kind of guilty inside, because I was like, oh man, I jumped the line. I wanted to see the dog first that we really liked, that was cute. And so you know, we waited and I told Mike what I did. He didn't care, but I was like feeling really guilty and like, oh gosh, I feel like I stole something from somebody. And then as soon as Luna came in the room, because it was Luna, she came up and she kind of circled for a minute, but then she came up and jumped on me so I could rub her little face and say hello. And then she went to Mike and said hello as well. And I was just like, that's the one, that's the one. And so the lady was like, okay, you know, you have to do the paperwork and it's going to take like an hour or two, because it was so backed up because of the adoption event. So we'll keep her back here and you go sit out front and wait for the papers, you know, till it's your turn to sign the papers and pay for the dog. And I was like, okay. So we're sitting there waiting, and the lady who I knew wanted to see her came storming out, and like because apparently she got told that the dog she wanted to see was getting adopted, so she couldn't see her anymore. And so I was feeling so guilty. And in between that time, we were picking a new name because her name was Tara when we were adopting her. And we had heard that when you adopt, you should change their name because it changes their whole life, you know, because you're getting a new family and whatnot. So Mike was Googling dog names, and he found Luna, and he really liked Luna. So, and you know, that was a really cute name. I thought that was cute too. So I was like, okay, yeah, let's name her Luna. You know, that's a cute dog name. So in the meantime, I kept thinking that somebody was going to come back to tell me that I couldn't have her because I stole her, because I jumped the line to get her. So I was like, try not to like make too many moves, you know, like try not to draw attention to me. And so the whole time we were sitting there, it took about 2 hours to get to our turn to do the paperwork. I kept thinking, oh man, they're going to come back and tell me that I can't have that dog because I jumped the line, and oh my gosh, I'm not going to, you know, so I didn't tell Mike how I was feeling until we got out, and we actually had her in our possession, and we were like getting in our car to go home, and I was like, oh my God, I thought they were going to take her from us, and I thought, you know, they were going to steal her back because I took her from that lady who wanted to see her first. So anyways, long story short, I believe that she was meant for us. So, you know, it's hard to have a dog in an apartment and to share with two people, because both of us wanted her to be our dog, like the one that she loved the most, you know. But she really loved both of us, and so she really had a great bond with us. And the one thing that was sad for me and Mike was that she was taken home twice by 2 other families and returned twice to the Humane Society. So they had told us, you know, that she had behavior problems and she needed training because she was aggressive and that sort of thing. But really, she's a great dog. Like, she doesn't chew things. I think she chewed 2 things when we first got her, and then Mike started getting her all kinds of chew toys, like chew bones that she loves. And so after that, she stopped really chewing anything. But Mike and Tuna had a really good bond. Like, she loved him. They were crazy about each other. And, you know, so he would come home in the morning because he worked nights. And every morning he would kiss me hello first. That was like a quick kiss. And then because Tuna knew Dad was home, and they would go do their thing. They would jump on the bed. He would, you know, jump back, and she would be so crazy kissing him and licking him and barking at him because she's so happy that he was home from work finally. And they always did that every single morning. And then they would go for a short walk while I was working, and then after I was done working, then I would take her on a long walk to the park. But, you know, and he saw her every morning, well, his morning, which was afternoon, when he woke up, and they had their moment. They had to have their little alone time, you know, on the couch. You know, he would give her cuddles and kisses, and she just loved him. She was so crazy about him. If I ever said, like, let's go see Daddy, she would get so, you know, so excited and bark and bark and bark. And they just had a really special bond, and she made him really happy. In fact, one time he said, you know, when we have to put her down, which is a weird subject to talk about, but if we have to put her down, I want to give her, you know, take her to the dog park, and even if I have to, you know, hold her and take her to the dog park last time, and we're going to give her a hamburger, and we're going to give her some chocolate ice cream. Just some things that she wouldn't get in real life, although she does get hamburger pieces on occasion now. But, and he got real teary, and so that made me teary, because he was so in love with her. And he would tell me and her that we were his special girls, you know, that he loved us, and he really did spoil her. She got spa days every couple months and toys all the time, and you know, they just were loved. They loved each other. Tuna loved being with him, even though I was the one that fed her. Every day I fed her. I took her on the longer walk, you know, 2 to 3 miles a day we did at the park every single day. That was her favorite place, but I was still second to Mike, and that was okay. So when Mike was in the hospital, me and Tuna stayed at my sister's house because it was closer to the hospital, and she knew something was wrong. And because it was so weird, because you know, he had come home and they did their crazy bit where they get all crazy and she's like barking and he's like so happy to see her. And then he took her on a short walk, you know, and then came back, and then I had to go to the store, and that's the last time we saw her. We saw him alive, both of us, me and Tuna. And then she knew something was wrong. I just know she knew because she acted different that day I left to go to the hospital because I was freaking out, you know, and she acted different after that. And we would stay at my sister's house those 5 days during the week when he was in the hospital, and she was just really sad, you know. She wasn't her typical Tuna, which is hyper, and she's always barking and bossing me around, and so she knew. And then when he died the next morning, I remember she was like right beside me. She wouldn't leave my side, and in fact she would like step on my toes because she didn't want to be without me. And I had read once that if somebody dies and they have a dog, you should bring the dog to see them, because the dog understands death, and they, you know, if they smell them they would understand what's happening to their person. And because Tuna had been adopted twice and then, you know, left behind, I didn't want her to think that Mike just left us on purpose. So I took her to the funeral home, and he was in his casket, and it was really a viewing, but it was just for the family. We didn't have anybody else come. We just wanted it to be for the family. And so she walked in, and she walked kind of around looking and smelling, and then all of a sudden she noticed the casket, and she noticed him laying in it, and she ran over to it and jumped kind of on it so she could see up. And she did the saddest cry. She did the saddest cry I've ever heard from a dog. Because she knew that was her daddy. And so I lifted her up, and I let her smell him. And she kind of stepped on him, on his chest, and she could feel how cold he was. And she smelled him, and then she wanted down because she knew. And at least she got to lick him and say goodbye. It's so weird to me because animals know death and they understand it. And it's so weird because whenever I used to say the word daddy, she would get so excited and like bark and, you know, get all kind of crazy and hyper. And ever since that day when I said daddy, she puts her ears down and she doesn't respond. And I think that's so crazy. A dog knows that her human is gone. That week, I remember after a week or two after he died, she was really sad and she wouldn't eat, kind of like me. And she, you know, it was like she would sit outside, which was her favorite place to be at my sister's house, and she would just look in the sky. Like she wouldn't do it. She wouldn't do anything. She loved being outside. So Tuna, when she's outside, looks for squirrels and bunnies, and she runs around and barks at everything. And so she would just lay there. But she was having she was getting scared of everything, and that wasn't typical for her. And so I took her to the vet, you know, and I explained, like, my husband just died and she's acting really sad and she won't eat, you know. She's having really bad anxiety, like even just like a plane flying over in the sky would scare her and she'd run, and that was just not her normal behavior. And so they gave her doggy Prozac, and she had lost 3 pounds. And I guess when you're a dog you lose 3 pounds in a few weeks, that's pretty bad. And I mean, I was trying to feed her, I was trying to give her treats, but she wouldn't eat much. And so she was just having a grieving period, and the doctor said that, the veterinarian said that was completely normal. And I just think it's cute because she was just like me. I needed to get on some medicine to help me as well. But really, she has been my lifesaver these last few years because she gave me a reason to, you know, get up in the morning and do something. And some days I didn't want to live, and I would remember that, you know, Tuna needs me because her family, the two families before left her, and now her daddy went to heaven and left us that way. So it's like, Tuna needs me. She needs her mama. And so if I cried, you know, she's done this in my videos, she'll come up to me and like make sure I'm okay if I cry. And sometimes she just will sit right next to me, like she is kind of right now. I know, I wish you could see her, but she's sitting right next to me while I'm talking. And so we are always together, me and Tuna, except when I'm at work. She really has been my lifesaver because there were times when I didn't want to be alive, and the only thing holding me back from making that happen was her. You know, like, we lived in here, this house with my sister and her dogs, and Tuna was here too, and it would just, for me, it was like never the same because I knew she would need me more than she would need somebody else. So I suggest, or I highly recommend, if you're alone now and you're a widow, or even if you're just alone, you're single and you're tired of being lonely, get a dog or a cat or something that you have to take care of that needs you, because that really will help you feel better in this life. And at least I'm never lonely. I am alone a lot, but that doesn't mean I'm lonely. And with Tuna, she's been my constant companion. In fact, we go to parks together, we go rides together. She loves going to the park. That's her favorite thing. So I try to make her happy. So some days are dedicated to just Tuna. Right now in Colorado, it's really cold, so it's harder to get out to the parks all the time. So when it's warm, I really do take advantage of it, and she loves it. That's her favorite thing, and she just loves being with me. And so it makes me happy that I can make her happy, because Mike always wanted to give her the best life, and so I've sort of taken on that mission, is to take care of her and give her a good life. We do have to go to the vet. So I'll show you some pictures of that and some video of that. And then when she goes to the vet, I try to take her to the park as well, just to get her out and spoil her a little bit. And then she always gets a treat after that. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share this video. That would really mean a lot to me. I love you.
Do you want to go to the vet? Tuna has to go to the vet. Are you ready to go to the vet? You ready? Tuna was a good girl at the vet, so she gets a hookup on Tuna. Next to the vet.